hello, and welcome once again to another episode of the Theater Professor Vidcast. My name is Terry Dana Jakimiak II. I am the Theater Professor, and currently stuck in my head is all about that bass, no treble. So I promise not to sing that too much today as we go through our second iPad tutorial for the app Artrage, which is a fabulous app. If you haven't already, stop by the first version of this tutorial. First version? Well, I meant the first installment. The first installment of this tutorial, which kind of went over creating your paper space. And today what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to kind of look at all the tools that are available to us, both our actual art tools as well as other tools and things that we can do on this main page here. If you remember correctly, we created a wonderful little gray piece of paper. I'm zooming out here so you can kind of see it. And it's ready to be drawn on, but we're not going to draw quite yet. I want to go through and explain a bunch of things. If you look at the down left portion of your screen right now, you see a little paintbrush. If you press that button, because it is a button, and you'll press that button, you can see that all of our tools are brought up. We've got paint cans, we've got erasers, crayons, pens, pencils, we have tubes of paint. I mean, just about anything that you would find in your little art bin at home, we have available, and we are going to learn how to use and play with all of those. To choose your art tool, you just tap whichever one you want, and it extends farther out than the other ones. That's how you know which tool you are using. And I'm just kind of going down all the way through. I love the palette knife, one of my favorite tools in this program. And when you want, if you're like, say you've got your pencil up and you're drawing, you don't want to look at all those tools. If again, you press the lower left-hand corner, they all disappear. Mirrored on the other side is our color palette in the opposite corner. If you press it, it opens up. You'll see that you have your, and for those of you that followed at home in my Procreate series, you'll see that you actually have 3 different categories in regards to your color. You have the top one that changes your tint and shade of whatever color you've chosen. See, whoop, 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 whoop. You have your middle section here where you are choosing your hue, your actual color choice. So let's choose like a blue, and you can really see if you're right in the middle here, you should be pretty close to your pure color, because then as you go left and right, you're adding black or you're adding white, which is tint and shade in the art world. And the deeper hues are going to be near the outside edge, where if you come down to the bottom edge, you get much more muted hues. And then you have this metallic, and you can make your colors metallic looking. And we'll look at that when we actually start drawing. Okay? And then once you have your color chosen, you can press that button to make that disappear. So, especially if you're doing like pencil sketching, and you take your color down, take your color down into a nice dark gray, then you turn that off, and then you don't have to think about that and just kind of have some fun. So as you can see, I'm set up a pencil right now with dark gray. Along the bottom, you have a toolbar with several menu options. So let us sit and look at what these different menu options are. Bottom left, you have a couple of cog wheels. They don't spin. It'd be awesome if they did. Be like doo 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 doo. And if you press one, or press the cog wheels, it opens up different settings that you can adjust on whatever tool you have. Now understand, depending on the tool will depend on the difference in what settings you can adjust. So for example, I have the pencil tool right now. I can change the size. I can change the pressure, under pressure. I can change the softness. I can change the tilt angle. And then precision I can either turn on or turn off. Think of precision on a pencil. So this is more of a mechanical pencil if it's turned on, and more of a sketching pencil when it's turned off. And then, of course, you can reset it all. Bam! And now we're back to its initial settings. All right. If you hit the cogwheel again, that disappears. Our next tool item on the bottom looks like a little folder. And when you press it, what you have in here are presets. And you can see, for pencil, you have Auto Smooth Me. Oops, I'm not going to choose them from here on out. Hard and Dark, Hard Shader, Hard Tip, Heavy and Smooth, Soft Tip, and Thin Precise Liner. And if we were to choose one, say, let's choose the Hard Shader and take a quick look at its settings. We can see that the tilt angle is at 100%. And then if we come back over here and we switch to, for example, Thin Precise Liner, you'll see that our smoothing is at 30%. And our precise is checked. There we go. So that is where the difference is. You can create a new preset. So let's create a new preset, and we'll base it off a pencil. We'll call this, what do you think? We should call this My Pencil. I believe that would be an appropriate name. So let's pull up my keyboard. Keyboard open. Ooh, that was good. We'll call this, oops, My Pencil. We'll click OK. Okay, so now what you'll notice is My Pencil is right there. Now, I had not adjusted the settings, so My Pencil is the same settings as the Thin Precise Liner. So if I click it, you'll see the exact same settings. Now, had I changed things, I'm gonna change a couple of things. And then if we click New Preset, we're gonna label it My Pencil again and see if it overwrites space. Oh, you can also change the image options. We're just going to use the default and click OK. So now, we have two of My Pencils, and we can actually, up top here is the edit button. If we wanted to, we could select that second pencil and we could trash it. So now we only have My Pencil. And you'll see My Pencil looks like that. And if you look at the settings, you can see how the settings match are very similar to what My Pencil actually creates. Okay? So let me get rid of that. There we go. The third and fourth buttons here on the bottom on the toolbar are your undo and redo. So the right one is redo, the left one is undo. A quick little tip here, you can also undo and redo by using 3-finger swipes left and right. So if we're here with an object already on here, if I take 3 fingers, put them down, and swipe to the left, it undoes. If I put 3 fingers down and swipe to the right, it redos. Okay, so that's a quick little thing if you don't want to worry about down at the bottom using the arrows left and right. It's a quick way to kind of undo, redo, undo, boo-doo-boo-doo-boo-doo-boo-doo. All right, next up, let me get rid of that. That's not pretty. I'm going to actually jump the middle for right now and head over to the ones on the right-hand side. On the right-hand side deals with kind of your paper situation. Your first one, which looks like a stack of papers, is your layers. You can create new layers, as I'm doing right there. Once you've created the new layer, you can actually rename it. So we'll call this my base layer, because it's all about that base, There we go. So that's my base layer. And we'll call this my, let's call it the, I don't know. What's a good name? Let's call it donkey. Call this the donkey layer. And then, of course, this one has to be the TARDIS. TARDIS number 1. All other time machines are filler. There we go. And we see we have a final one here. I'm going to click on it. And I don't want it here. So you're thinking, okay, how do I delete it? Well, if you see right next to, you see a button named or titled New. Right next to it, you see a second button with a little dot and several lines. If you click on that button, it brings up a menu. This menu has Import Image, Duplicate Layer, Transform Layer, Delete Layer, Clear Layer, Merge Layer Down, Merge All Layers, Canvas Setting, and Canvas Sliding. We're actually going to delete this layer. So that layer is now gone. Okay. We're going to get a little more into the other options here, such as Import Image, Duplicate Layer, Transform Layer, as we continue on with the class here. So I'm not going to go too deep into this until we actually start drawing, but just be aware those are there. Within each of the layers also you see an eyeball. If you click it, you'll see the eyeball disappears. That is turning the layer on and off. The next one deals with the opacity of the layer. If you press it, then hold down and slide up and down, it turns the opacity up and down. And then finally, the last one locks your layer so that if you don't want any drawing or movement to happen on that layer. Up top, you can also change things such as, is the layer highlights or shadows or watercolor, color burns? You know, a lot of this is Photoshop related things. And we'll get into that again as we begin moving forward in this series. Our next one down there, it looks like a little square with a pin in it. You can import an image, and this one's really, really helpful for those of you that like to have source pictures. So let's import an image, and we're gonna use this guy right here. He's a nice guy. Oops. Oy vey. What? Okay. And apparently, because he's stuck up there, and I can't. Oh, I needed 2 fingers. Now, you guys don't need to see that. So 2 fingers on the picture, and you can move him around. And it's like having a little source piece there. Okay, you see it even has a little thumbtack in the top. So now you can use him, and if you wanted to, then you could draw based on that picture. It's a really nice tool, and you know, let's we can have another import, and let's import a second image. We'll import. This is an eyeball I drew at one point. So it doesn't have to just be one. You can have a couple of different source images. So say you're working on like life drawing and you want several different eyes to kind of get different feels of eyeballs. You could download several eyes and then use them, and you can also turn them off just like the other ones. You can reset size and rotation. You can hide the reference, remove the reference, and make a tracing image. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. And of course you can trash them by using the edit button. All right. The next one down there is our tracing paper or tracing image. And we're going to import an image. We're going to take our guy here. And look at that. So now we see him on our paper, but he is not on one of our layers, our base, donkey, or TARDIS layer. He is on our tracing layer. And what our tracing layer does is it allows us to trace him, and then eventually we can just turn him off. Okay. We can also set his opacity. We have the ability to clear the image, convert it to paint, image scale. We can adjust all of these settings, reset the scale, a manual scale, stretch to fit, tile to fit inside, and fit to fill. You can choose colors from image, and I'll explain that in just one second. And so this allows us to then come in here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I've got my pencil. Oh, I'm set up with that pencil. And that's all about that. Let's go just hard and dark. Now, what we're seeing here, if you notice when I draw, notice how it's very light, or if I come over here, it becomes very dark. And if I turn off my tracing, you'll see that That's happening. What's happening here is that this is choosing colors from the image. This is actually a really interesting effect. So if I were to pick my paintbrush, and I think I talked a little bit on this when I discussed Artrage versus Procreate. If I pick my paintbrush, and we'll pick just normal rounds, fine. Okay, so you see how I'm changing the size of the brush? This is another shortcut. If you use 3 fingers and move up or down, you'll adjust the size of the brush. So right now I'm at 10%. And then if I come in here, it's picking up the color that's underneath within the drawing. So I'm not having to choose any colors. Now, some of you, some of you diehard artists are going to go, well, that's cheating. Well, it depends on what you're trying to do, okay? If what you're trying to do is create, or work on your skill set, yeah, you're not gonna become better at understanding hue, tone, shade, shadow, any of that stuff by doing this. What it does do is it's fun. I'm not gonna lie. Doing something like this is a lot of fun because I can sit here just kind of veg out. Yes, I know I'm low on batteries. I'll make sure I finish before I die. You can just kind of veg out, and it's choosing the colors for you. I'm all about that bass, For those of you that don't know, this is a Cyberman. They're very dangerous. You do not want to meet one in a back alley. And again, I'm using oil paint right now. You can do this with any of the mediums. In a second, I'm going to turn off. I'm going to zoom out. So you can see that that painting is starting to take shape. Okay, we'll do a little bit up here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And again, still just using oil colors or oil paint because it's fun. And it's not going to be perfect. That's actually not the point of it. I'm all about that bass, Now you notice that I tend to follow the path of the picture because I am an artist, so there's this sense that I want to create something that's close to what we're looking at. Sometimes I hate that drop-down menu. It just gets in the way. So you can see we're starting to get a Cyberman there. Okay, so that, again, that's choosing the color. You can see here when I click it, using trace color, click for normal color. So when you want to move to your normal colors, you just click like that. Now, say you wanted to pick up the color that's underneath and use the color, but not use what we were just doing there, using the paint specifically as using the color. Anyways, use your eyedropper. There's an eyedropper right here. See it in the middle? And you can come around. Oh, I need to turn the opacity back up, I think. There we go. Why am I? Oh, here we go. I'll choose it from up here. So I'm choosing from the picture. And so I've chosen right where his nose is, and then, oops, I've got to, one of the things you have to remember to do is then turn off, oops, there we go, we'll clean that up. There we go. And now I can come in and I can paint using a color. So the eyedropper will allow you to pick up colors from things. So right now I'm hovering over the eye, and you can see I'm getting a nice little skin tone there. I'm not actually painting the eye, because that would just be silly. Let me turn him off. There we go. And now you can actually see what I'm referring to. So if I use the eyedropper on, say, the iris area, and then I choose my drawing utensil, I start to get that color. Now you can see I'm using the oil paints. We'll talk more about the oil paint in a future tutorial. So that's kind of how the tracing paper works. I like to use it sometimes if I'm just trying to kind of get a sketch or an idea, or I'm doing a quick art piece just for the heck of it. You know, it's one of those things I like to, what I actually like to do a lot is I like to bring my children into in tracing paper, trace them, and then do a little bit of art around them. You can create some really cool compositions that way. The other thing you can do is you can use your images, that your sources here, you know, the little thumbtackies, and you can actually make a tracing image out of that. So I just did it on the eyeball, made the eyeball the tracing image, and then I'll come back and make the Cyberman the tracing image. Okay, then you can hide all references if you want. And finally, the very final one that looks again like a folder is when you click on it, this is your color palette. Okay, we're going to clear the color samples for now. And you can, one of the things some people like to do is, let me turn off my tracing image. Let's say you wanted to create your own colors. So for example, I'm going to get a nice red, and I'm going to lay it up here. Let me increase my brush size. There we go. And I'm going to get a nice white and lay it right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to mix them together to get a nice pink, you know, color. It starts to get almost a skin tone. I could, you know, I'd probably bring in a little bit of brown to kind of flesh this out, flesh it out, because I'm looking at skin tones. But once you have that mixed, you can then take your eyedropper, choose a color in there like that, and then you can pull it into your color palette. See how I did that? Well, you probably didn't. So I'm going to tell you how I did that. So I've mixed my color. I use my eyedropper tool. It turns on. I hover over different areas to find the color that I want. It changes the color in the bottom right-hand corner. I then touch that. Oops. I touched it too long. And I drag it to the folder. See how it turns a plus there? That means I've dragged it to the folder. And then I let go. And you'll see I've added a second color there. And I can do that with whatever colors that I choose to mix. So I've chosen that color, and I pull it down to my folder, and I've created that. One of the cool things you can do is, let's go back to our eyeball, turn that on. We can choose colors from within this. If I turn it on, we can choose colors. Say we'll choose this dark shadow here. Oh, let me turn that off. And I'll pull that into my color palette, and maybe we'll choose this. Let's choose the white of the eye, which is actually a grayish. Pull that into my color palette. So you can put a picture up here, pull the colors that you want to use from the picture in your artwork. Okay? And then there you've started to create your palette. You can, of course, edit it. You can delete things. You can also sort it by saturation, by hue, by luminance, etc. But that's your color palette. The big problem that I found here is that you can't create multiple color palettes and then save them among different artworks. which is kind of annoying. Like Procreate you can, this you can't. But, you know, there are other things this does much better than Procreate, so it's kind of a flip of the coin. All right, finally, let's look at the bottom two menu buttons. We'll turn everything else off. The one on the left, again, another folder, allows you to save a copy, and go back to the gallery. And the question mark gives you, here's a quick reference guide. You know, I've talked about a bunch of the 3-finger things in regards to brush size and undo, redo. There's a whole bunch in here that you can look at. Now, it's not quite as thorough as I would like it to be. I'll be honest, I wish there was more information, but it does give you some information and can help you understanding some things in regards to the different parts here. And there's a link to the forums up top. And I have been to the forums, and the forums are okay. The only thing I wish that the forums, I mean, because Artrage is also a PC program, most people tend to use it in the PC way. Here's some blending colors, you know, like what I was doing earlier. It talks about the tracing and the references. So there's a lot of really good information in here. All right. I think that's all we're going to do for this week. Next week, we'll start to play with each of the tools in our palette. So we'll opening up that, we'll start with our paint bucket and move down probably about halfway. And then the following week, continue it the rest of the way, just so that you are gaining as much information as possible as we go through this. Eventually, what we'll do is we will create some art in this, have a little fun, create some nice compositions, play with different things. The great thing about this is it is really a multimedia way of doing art. You get to use a lot of different, you know, oil paint, watercolor, airbrush, as well as this being a digital piece. So it's really, really kind of cool. All right. My name is Terry Dana Jakimiak II. I am the Theater Professor. If you haven't done so already, make sure you stop by thetheaterprofessor.com. Take a look at the website. Maybe sign up for the newsletter. Let me know what you think. You know, if you're watching this on YouTube, fabulous. Love it. You know, but definitely stop by the website and say hi. I've just added a way for you to ask me questions via your computer where you don't even have to type. You can just click a button and leave a voicemail. And that's on the website. It's on the, I believe, on the right-hand side currently. And that will that's another way for me to be able to help you out. So if you run into any questions, comments, concerns, problems, etc., just let me know. All right. I have a lovely day of teaching tomorrow, so it's about that time for me to head to bed. Take care, folks, and I will see you soon. Oh, yeah. And it's all about that bass, no trip.